Spanish is an amazing language that it seems like everybody is learning, but why should you learn Spanish? And if you can't think of a good reason, well, sit tight because I'm going to give you 11 of them.
A Carlos le gustaba pasear por las playas de Buenos Aires. Trabajaba muchas noches y para descansar, paseaba. Salía de su taller y andaba un rato para estirar las piernas.
If you wanted to save one of the world's dying languages, well, forget Spanish and learn Hawaiian. Hawaiian is endangered, but Spanish is not going anywhere. The latest stats say that if you count people learning Spanish, not speaking Spanish, but learning Spanish, 572 million people in the world speak it right now. That's right. One of these days, not knowing Spanish will be like not knowing English. But I want to talk to you hopeful globetrotters. Is that you? If you have time to learn one language, it is a no-brainer to learn Spanish. Unless your destination is, I don't know, Russia or something like that. Look, I made you a little travel itinerary to prove my point. You start in the US, catch a bus down to Mexico, and then cruise across to the Caribbean for some island fun. Get in a small plane and parachute into Costa Rica, hire a jeep and make your way through South America, next fly west to Africa for a hot jungle safari, and 2 years later end up in Spain for some European culture. Is that all? Not a chance, but my point is, with Spanish you will be unlocking an entire world of possibility. The Spanish language is 22 countries big. Yes, and the US has more Spanish speakers than Spain does. So is Spanish significant? Just a bit. Look, I took a look at the latest Duolingo stats because it seems to be the playground of the language curious. Check this out. Spanish for English speakers is Duolingo's second most popular course, and the number is growing like wildfire, so don't you be the one left behind. Of course, there are far better ways to learn Spanish, you know, just in case you're curious, and if your curiosity gets the better of you, why not like and subscribe to my channel and just wait to see what happens.
Había 4 conejos. Los conejos son animales y aman comer zanahorias.
There is a reason that my first separate channel here is called StoryLearning Spanish. See if you can figure it out and go and subscribe. Did you know that Spanish is one of the top 5 easiest languages that you can attempt? There is another coming up in episode 2 of this series of videos here, but trust me, you're going to win at Spanish. See, everything from the grammar to the way you make the sounds is a lot easier than most other languages that you could be learning as an English speaker, obviously. And this is cool. Spanish is a gateway language. Let me explain. You know those people who speak 4 or 5 languages? Very often, most of those are languages from the same family. That's how I got my start as well, speaking European languages from the same family. See, Spanish belongs to a family of popular languages that are quite similar, and once you can speak it, it's far easier to learn the others.
Leonzi. Leonzi.
Lonze?
Lonze.
Linceau.
Yep, if you're choosing between Spanish and French and want easier pronunciation, definitely start with Spanish.
If you don't want to roll your R when you're learning Spanish, I recommend practicing Puerto Rican Spanish. They, instead of the rolling R, they use an L. So instead of saying things like carne, they say carne.
So now you're ready to explore the Spanish world. Where do you go? Well, what a crazy question. You go almost anywhere. See, Spanish not only has many different language varieties, but it also represents huge diversity among people, from Spain to the many cultures of Latin America, and you get the full spectrum for learning only one language. It's brilliant.
Hola, pero ¿qué te pasa? Yo soy de Chile, pero soy de Balsapo. No, one.
I'm going to throw in one more win for good measure here. With all these varieties, you could literally pick your accent. You'll have to spend time in a town that speaks in that accent, but for now, you can steal ideas from my blog. Lots in there about Spanish phrases from cool places like Dominica. But here is a good question. Will Spanish still be useful to you when you get back home?
Mi nombre es Ofelia. ¿Quién eres tú?
Yo he tenido tantos nombres.
Let's admit it, Netflix can get boring from time to time, and you know that time when you just can't seem to find anything that you really want to watch? Did it ever occur to you that you're searching in the wrong language? I'm serious here. Spanish has some very cool movies and series. We have the classics like Diarios de Motocicleta and binge-worthy shows like La Casa de Papel, bringing you all the accents, of course. When you can speak another language, your movie options double, and believe me, there's better than Hollywood out there. So don't ask me what you can possibly do with Spanish at home. Pour a drink, grab the snacks, and indulge. And hey, if you want to act out scenes from Pan's Labyrinth, well, that's your business.
Hola, buenas noches.
Hola, buenas noches.
¿Pasa por aquí el camión que va a Colima?
Sí, pasa por esta calle, se para ya en contraesquina de la iglesia.
Qué raro, ya tenía como 20 minutos esperándolo ahí y nada.
When you go traveling, you're going to find that many other travelers know some Spanish. Nobody wants to be staring at a bus schedule with a dictionary for an hour, and experienced travelers like to be prepared. You won't always be around other travelers though, and it's best to depend on yourself. Being alone in a foreign country gets challenging, and I'd encourage you to empower yourself. Take the stress out of it by at least knowing how to ask for what you need. I've experienced this too. Actually, I've heard other travelers say that knowing Spanish made them braver and more adventurous because they wouldn't be stuck anywhere or scammed or charged tourist prices, and this does happen. The stereotypical tourist is an easy target, but you can avoid this to a certain extent if your Spanish is decent. Quite interesting. Duolingo does an annual report, and travel is listed as the primary motivation to study Spanish, which people are really craving post-pandemic, aren't you? Imagine if a 2-year-old had to keep putting off learning how to speak because of other pressing matters. The real reason it's harder to learn a new language later in life is not about age, despite what you may think. It's about timing. When you were 2, you had no responsibilities and you learned your language all day long with people to help you, fight sessions included. And even if you wanted your host family to leave you in the shopping aisle, they didn't. At least I hope they didn't. And you kept learning their language. With Spanish, same thing applies for quick learning. You need some real everyday Spanish all around you. Luckily, many Latin countries have great immersion opportunities. For example, you can stay with a host family, living like they do. And this is the sort of situation which is really ideal for language learning and when the magic is going to happen, because this is where you tend to get stories. And because of my own experiences learning languages through story, here at StoryLearning, I actually teach languages using stories. The reason is that I found stories to be the best way to learn a language, and by teaching this way, you learn the language in a very natural way, which is super fun and very different from all that memorizing of grammar rules that they gave you back in school. Anyway, if you'd like to learn more about how to learn a language with stories, or story learning as I call it, then you should download my Story Learning Kit. The Story Learning Kit is a free collection of video masterclasses, audio guides, printable worksheets. And it's going to show you step by step how story learning works to help you decide if this method is right for you. So look in the link below and give it a shot.
On the weekends, we have a lot of time, so we have Mondays off. So generally, the other volunteers will all go travelling together. So last weekend, we went to a town called Kilatoa and walked around an active volcano, which is really cool.
Getting experiences that are good for your mind, body, and soul. You are learning new skills, you are learning new languages, you're developing purpose, you are building self-confidence, and you cannot buy these experiences with money.
Have a quick read of this. Did your heart skip a beat? Well, I just saw this on goabroad.com. The call of the wild is extra strong in some people, maybe in you too. But why volunteer? Well, that's easy. For an authentic cultural experience and to make an impact. See, Central and South America have stunning places where millions of people live in poverty, and there's a ton of diverse opportunities to get involved and make a difference. You could help out at an orphanage, for example. These kids don't always get an opportunity to be exposed to cultures other than their own, so it's interesting for them as well.
You can join different boats all around the world, and you can do animal welfare and pet sitting, which you learn about different kinds of animals. And there's so many different permaculture projects, farm stays, and sustainable projects where you can join.
What a way to become a more positive person. As they say in Costa Rica, pura vida. What's even crazier is that it all started on top of a mountain in Argentina under a full moon when I stopped breathing. Do you know what inspired me to start story learning? Well, in large measure, learning Spanish did, and you can hear about that experience here if you'd like to. Spanish has proven to me that it can change your life. The thing is, knowing Spanish can also open many unique doors for you. Really fun jobs like working as a scuba diving instructor somewhere in the Caribbean. I mean, imagine that life. And if you prefer independence, maybe you've heard digital nomads are on the rise. Since the pandemic, you won't believe how many countries have decided to introduce digital nomad visas, which allows you to work there for a year with just your laptop. Check out these Spanish-speaking countries that are offering this visa now or will be soon. Look, we can work pretty much anywhere on a laptop, but in reality, actually living in a country is very hard when you don't speak the language. So unless English is widely spoken there, you'll have a far better time speaking Spanish.
¿Qué hace con sus tiempos libres?
Bueno, me gusta mucho leer noticias de mi comunidad, pero también a nivel global me gusta estar informada y también me gusta cocinar y hacer ejercicio.
Imagine adding I speak fluent Spanish to your LinkedIn profile. Even with more mainstream jobs, bilingual skills are in high demand these days, and depending on your industry, Spanish could look great on your resume. In the US especially, Spanish is becoming an essential skill because Hispanic culture is an integral part of US culture. According to Forbes, when you're looking for a job, communication skills are high on the list, and Spanish speakers just have more options. For example, a reporter who can speak Spanish can often secure interviews more easily, and then they also understand more angles to the story, etc. So having Spanish is useful, and recruiters know this. International Living Magazine, Expat Financial, websites like these publish the best places in the world to retire. And believe it or not, many of them are Spanish-speaking countries. Uruguay, of all places, seems to be a real winner. And these Spanish-speaking countries are extremely beautiful and diverse with stunning landscapes and fascinating cultures. But this part really gets people's attention. Many of these countries are a lot cheaper to live in than what you're used to. There's only one catch. In a place like Uruguay, very few people speak English. So if you really want to enjoy the experience, the best thing you can do for yourself is to take a Spanish course. And when you do retire in some Spanish-speaking heaven, come and tell us about it. Just don't retire on the language learning, not on my watch.
I'm Mika, I'm from Brazil, I speak Portuguese.
My name is Giuseppe and I speak Italian. My name is Giuliano and I come from France.
I'm Ana, I'm from Spain and I speak Catalan.
And I'm only speaking Spanish.
Remember what I said about the language families? Well, check this out. It's a photo I took of Spanish's beautiful family, the romances. They have a lot in common. So with Spanish under your belt, you're well set for your next romance language. But there's still one burning question on your mind. How hard is Spanish to learn, really? The answer is right here in this next video. Go and check it out.